Hello, my fellow concerned friends, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for showing up and watching and supporting every single time I post. It genuinely means the world to me. And if you are new here, hello, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. Out of all of these other videos you could have clicked on, you chose mine, and I genuinely appreciate it. I hope that you can stick around and you can get something beneficial from my content today. About 30% of families in America attend church. So they're going to church services, they're attending those bus breakfasts, those weekly outreach programs, they're doing their church fundraisers, and of course their church events like Christmas events, they're going to the Easter events, maybe the potlucks, who knows, maybe they're going on mission trips. But at least weekly, 30% of families are sitting down in church pews and listening to preachings on how they can better free themselves from sin and secure their place in eternal salvation and tranquility. Now, believe it or not, there was actually a good chunk of my life where I was part of that 30% of families, because when I was in foster care, I was placed with a religious family. They were independent fundamental Baptist, and yes, I had to go to church with them. I definitely did not look like a Christian kid. At the time, I had my head shaved, I had my smiley pierced, my septum pierced, my lip pierced. I dressed very seen and alternative. I listened to not Christian music at all. I did not read Christian books. I did not watch Christian movies. I did not do Christian things. To say that it was a culture shock is an understatement. Going to church, going to these church events made me feel so much shame. I felt so out of place, and I felt like I just stuck out like a sore thumb and like I just did not belong. And all of the preaching really started to get to me, because why was I wearing pants? I mean, I am a woman. And as somebody who was SA'd by my stepdad, maybe pastor is right. Maybe it's because of the way I was dressing, and if I had just been more pure inwardly and outwardly, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. Little by little by little, they started chipping away at my own beliefs, what I believed about myself, what I believed happened to me, what I believed deserved happened to me, and what I believed about how I got to where I am and why my life is going the way it is. It's because of my sin. Of course, it has nothing to do with the failings of my parents and the justice system not protecting me. It is because of my sin. And when you're placed in an echo chamber where there is nothing else you are hearing except for that, you start to really believe it. And pair that with some fantastic preachers like Johnny Pope, Kurt Skelly, Jeff Redlin, Kenny Baldwin, who is who we are talking about today. And these preachers are like the celebrities of at least the independent fundamental Baptist denomination, which is really weird because doesn't the Bible say not to like put any man on a pedestal? And yet these are the preachers, and there's more of them obviously. And I know that there's probably gonna be a lot of you who are like, I've never heard of any of these people in my life. And hey, that's fine, I understand. But just know that in all the churches that I went to, especially at Pensacola Christian College, the college I was made to go to, celebrities, okay? They're captivating. They are gifted by God with the Holy Spirit to be able to capture everyone in the audience's attention, keep them engaged, and most of all, keep them convicted with the Holy Spirit and the Word of God. And they did a great job at it, making teens cry because they feel so much shame that their skirt was 2 inches above their knee, and therefore it was their fault that they may have been harmed by someone, or someone might harm them in that way. I have to be really careful on this channel about what I say because of the nature of literally all of my content. YouTube has me under the most high definition magnifying glass, and I keep getting like age restrictions on a lot of my videos that thankfully have been going through the appeal, but I'm really tired of having to go through that waiting to appeal it process. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more careful about what I say. But that is a real thing that children experience. Sermon after sermon about how the music you listen to directly impacts what you do in the real world. And if you don't stop listening to that music, it is because the devil himself is essentially following you around. And you're letting him. You're letting him mind control and manipulate you. You're letting him pull you further and further away from God and closer to ultimate destruction. Which, yeah, sounds terrifying to a lot of vulnerable adults. Now imagine being a child Imagine being a traumatized child, blaming yourself for everything that happened to you because it's God's way of leading you closer to Him. It's God's way of preparing you for salvation. These are all things that we hear in these messages. Very common things that are preached in these messages. The bad things that happened to you happened for a reason, either to teach you a lesson or bring you closer to God. Or they happened due to your own sinfulness, due to your own refusal to accept God's salvation and the Holy Spirit and align yourself with holiness. And while I truly do believe a lot of these preachers who preach these things, specifically to teenagers, truly do believe these things down in their heart that they're true, there are some who I think really are just doing it as a projection and honestly, a kind of low-key admission of their own sins, their own guilt. And today that person is Dr. Kenny Baldwin. Kenneth Baldwin has been charged with 2 counts of unlawful contact with a minor, corruption of minors, indecent exposure, and open lewdness after an investigation was launched in May 2026. Dr. Kenny Baldwin, one of the IFB denomination's favorite preachers, so impactful, so convicting, so motivating, especially towards the teens, has been accused of a 15-year-old boy. I want to say I'm surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was like a little shocked just to see the name, but when I took my personal experience of being one of those kids in those pews listening to him, having worked at the same teen camp he preached at in 2019, yeah, seeing his name, I was a little bit like, okay, like, all right, that's that part, okay, a little shocking, I guess. But then after taking myself out of that emotional kind of shock, like, oh, I know that person, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. He loves teens. He has a position of power over teens. I can't say that I'm actually surprised. Initially shocked a little bit, just like that bolt of like, wait, I know that person, but not surprised at all. This is not the first time that this has happened, and this will not be the last time that this will happen, especially because of how that 30% of America that attends church reacts when these things happen. And now I know it's not all of the 30%, it's not all of you 30%, because I myself have seen people in that 30% speak out, but when you see the church's reaction to these kinds of crimes that have been committed against children, I think it starts to make a lot of sense why this continues to happen and why these kinds of people continue to be in positions of power over children and use their religion as a shield to continue their poor behavior and keep working on it. PSP said Baldwin went to the victim's church in November 2024 to preach a sermon, and the two exchanged numbers afterwards. Troopers said he was sending explicit images to the victim and was sending multiple images a week up until December 2025. According to an affidavit, state police spoke with the teenager, who was 17 at the time. In May 2026, he told investigators that when he and Baldwin would chat, messages would revolve around masculinity. Baldwin, who was employed with Crossroads Baptist Church at the time, would then insert his male dominance and show his manhood, troopers noted in the affidavit. He would also send messages claiming he had a Big Johnson. Charging documents show Baldwin eventually encouraged the victim to download WhatsApp so they could talk privately, initiating conversations like, "Is the coast clear?" or "CC" before sending more illicit photographs. On May 21st, 2026, the police said Baldwin messaged the victim again and had sent him another image, which was seized by state police. Another message was sent on June 1st, PSP noted in the affidavit. After confessing to sending nude images of himself to a minor on June 9th, troopers spoke with Baldwin at the York State Police Station. Baldwin reportedly told state police he thought the victim was probably 15 when they started speaking, and he was absent-minded because he acted so much older. He admitted to sending 15 images to the teen, according to the affidavit. In news release, PSP said it had reason to believe Baldwin sent similar images to more minors. Anyone with information on this case or who else may be a victim is urged to contact PSP in York at 717-428-1011. Crossroads Baptist Church said it has no comment when CBS 21 reached out. Kenny Baldwin was still preaching to kids. Kenny Baldwin was still specifically preaching to teenagers, in direct contact with teenagers, having very personal, charged conversations with teenagers. I know because at one point I was one of those teenagers who felt like I had a very personal connection with Kenny Baldwin, and he really saw me. He really understood me. And it wasn't just Kenny Baldwin. I had those same connections and relationships with even my own youth pastors and pastors within my own personal church and churches that I went to. He would insert his male dominance and talk about his Big Johnson to a child he met while preaching at a church and got that child's phone number after the service. And this happens a lot. That's why your reaction as Christians and as people who go to church really matter right now. Because this could be happening in your own church. This happened to me. If you guys are familiar with my story, you know this, but just for those of you who aren't aware, I will give a very brief rundown about what happened to me in the church. When I had been going to this church for a while and I had gotten saved and I was involved in the bus ministry, I would go to that event at the bus ministry. Long story short, this new guy comes, and it turns out that this new guy actually went to church there forever. I knew his parents, obviously. I just didn't know that he was their son. I didn't know. And he had just gotten a divorce. So he moved back home, Well, then he sits down across from me, and I'm sat down across from one of my friends. Well, it turns out he's best friends with my friend's dad. And I know now what he was doing. He was flirting with me. He was flirting with me, and he was and here I am, this little lost duck. I don't know what love is, what's up and down, what's left and right, what's true or false, because I am a very, very lost and traumatized foster kid just trying to navigate what even is reality. Long story short, he ends up getting my phone number, and I will just say that it progressed to the point where I really thought I had to marry this man. Things happened that I begged not to happen, all because I viewed this person as a very spiritual person, a very spiritual man that I could trust, somebody completely different than where I came from. Therefore, this must be the best thing for me. And it definitely was not. But I couldn't see that through his youth pastor degree. Kenny Baldwin allegedly told the police that the kid was probably 15, but he was absent-minded about it because the kid acted so much older. Textbook. How many of us have been told that? Whether it was by a preacher, a youth preacher, someone in the church, somebody that you met online, it could be a teacher at school, it doesn't matter who it is. I think that probably almost every single CSA victim has probably been told that in some form of another. You're so much more mature. You don't act like kids your age. You're really, really smart. You know that? You're really emotionally intelligent. It's so crazy. I've never talked to a kid as bright as you. But no, I promise you, this 15-year-old acted like a 15-year-old. 15-year-olds act like 15-year-olds, even if they have gone through things that mature them quicker. You don't mistake a 15-year-old for an adult. Kenny Baldwin is a 47-year-old man with children of his own. And this 47-year-old married conservative Christian father is saying that a 15-year-old, he was just absent-minded about it because that 15-year-old just acted so much older than 15 at 47. It's victim blaming. I don't know if people realize that, but that statement, they acted older, more mature, she looked older, he looked older. It's a victim blaming statement to take responsibility and guilt off of the offender. Because if I can convince everybody else around me that the child actually enticed me through behaviors or actions, then I look less guilty, or maybe people won't think that I'm a bad guy at all, and they'll actually feel bad for me and be like, shame you, child. And you know what? That is true for a lot of people, especially in the church. People in the church victim blame all the time. It's like one of their most favorite things to do. I remember when what happened to me happened and things came to light, I was called a wolf in sheep's clothing. I was called a home wrecker because I was getting in the middle of a marriage. I do not ever remember hearing any comments or statements made about a man that was 9 years older than me that were negative, except by one person who was my peer and said, hey, I think this relationship is a little bit weird. And I was like, you're weird, leave me alone. But I should have listened to her. Somehow what happened to me was my fault and no one's fault but my own. And if it made anyone in the church look bad, or it made the church look bad when I came out with it, well, that would also be my fault too. And if they aren't victim blaming the victim, they're definitely not focusing on praying for the victim or providing resources and healing support for that victim. What they are focused on is praying for the offender, praying that God changes their heart and leads them back to Christ, leads them back to the flock. They have no immediate knee-jerk intentions of kicking them out of the flock and saying, you were the wolf in sheep's clothing. No, we're going to say that to the victim and then pray for the offender, because clearly the offender needs more prayer, right? This is a post I found on Instagram from the DMV Daily, where they made a post talking about the allegations against Kenny Baldwin. A Fairfax County pastor is facing multiple charges in Pennsylvania after investigators say he sent explicit images of himself to a teenage boy he met while preaching at a York County church. Pennsylvania State Police charged Kenny Baldwin with unlawful contact with a minor, corruption of minors, indecent exposure, and open lewdness. Investigators said Baldwin met the victim, who was 15 at the time, in November 2024 while visiting the church to deliver a sermon. Authorities allege that the two exchanged phone numbers and that Baldwin repeatedly sent explicit images through WhatsApp until December 2025. Police said the now 17-year-old reported the alleged conduct in May, and Baldwin later admitted to sending the images and exposing himself to the teen in person on at least 3 occasions. Investigators believe there may be additional victims. Baldwin served as senior pastor of Crossroads Baptist Church in Bailey's Crossroads, though it is unclear if he remains in that role. Veritas Baptist College, where Baldwin served on its board of directors, said it has revoked his position and condemned the alleged conduct, adding it will cooperate with law enforcement. And this was one of the first comments that came up when I clicked on the comments of that post. Dang, not Kenny. He used to pick us up for Sunday school. What a good guy. This is unfortunate. You left a comment saying, what a good guy, after reading that post, all because you had a good experience with Kenny Baldwin picking you up for Sunday school? I will never understand how people can react to situations like this in complete disbelief it can't be true, instead of sitting back and being like, oh, that happened? And I was a child around him. Now I'm second guessing every single interaction, and I'm rehashing every conversation to look for any clues if there might have been a history of this behavior, and did he try that on me? But no, what a good guy. This is unfortunate. Yeah, for the victim. This is unfortunate for the victim. This is what I'm talking about. I see this over and over and over again in churches. I personally saw it in churches myself. It's all focused on the offender and not the victim at all, because the victim rocked the boat by saying anything. Great, now we have this whole fiasco we have to deal with within the church. Now we have to give out all these statements. Now we have to try to rebuild some sort of trust within our church community and the community as a whole to get people to come in our doors, because if people aren't coming in our doors, then that tithe bowl is not getting filled to the brim, which means that we can't have this big, beautiful building that we don't really let anybody use except for our church members, because most of our events are typically closed off to the public. And don't forget my salary as a pastor, because that salary pays my $80,000 bond. So yeah, let's focus on the offender, because the hopeful redemption story will definitely get a lot more people in those doors than advocating for justice of a victim, even if the offender was your church pastor and a renowned preacher, especially for teens. Now, as I think I said earlier, I did attend Pensacola Christian College, and during my time at Pensacola Christian College, I listened to him preach multiple times. And if you do not believe me, here are some of my credentials. I was actually a camp counselor for Teen Extreme 2019 on the Orange team. So since Kenny Baldwin is a huge figure within Pensacola Christian College and their camps, etc., I wanted to see if anybody from my old college was saying something about this, because a lot of those people were my friends and heard my testimony and always expressed to me how sad they were for me. Now, I will acknowledge that a lot of that expression of sadness also came with a little sprinkle of guilt, because Have you forgiven him yet? Because when you forgive him, God will heal your heart. So I wanted to see if when it's not personal to them, they would still care. So when I went to the PCC student discussion page on Facebook, I was very happy to see this post that was shared. It's a post from the Preacher's Boys where he's going through everything, and I did watch his YouTube video. It's really good. I'll have it tagged below if you guys want to watch it. But someone shared that post and said, it were better for him that a millstone were hung about his neck and cast into the sea than that he should cause one of these little ones to fall. Which, if you're not familiar with that verse, it's saying exactly what you think it's saying. It is saying that it would actually be better for a person like this to not exist at all anymore, through, dare I say, one of the scariest ways to go, than for a child to be harmed. Fantastic. We love to see it, especially on the Pensacola Christian College, who loves Kenny Baldwin's student discussion page. And surely everyone in the comments would be agreeing, right? Well, no, of course not, because outside of the typical comments of people being like, wow, this is so shocking and surprising, and not mentioning anything about the victim, we get comments like this. Not sure that posts like this are the purpose of the PCC student discussion page. I'm sorry, a student discussion page is a page where students can discuss things occurring within the college campus and their personal lives as a student at Pensacola Christian College. This is absolutely the time and place for this discussion to happen, because you as students have the power to rally together and demand change by those deans, by the president. Why aren't y'all harassing Papa Shu about making a statement on this and standing up against this like you do whenever he gives y'all out free Krispy Kreme donuts per room? Christians are like ostriches who stick their head in the sand as soon as things get uncomfortable. I don't know if ostriches really do that, but at least for me growing up in my childhood, I feel like I saw that in like cartoons a lot, and it was kind of like a running joke. I don't know if that was just me, but yeah, like ostriches sticking their head in the sand anytime a conversation gets uncomfortable. They don't like to actually have discussions about things that matter. Their personal one-on-one discussions that they like to have with each other is all sunshines, rainbows, and butterflies, and complaining about sinful secular people, complaining about the LGBT community, complaining about the music that's being produced and the movies that are being produced, complaining about literally anything and everything and discussing anything and everything that does not matter. And as soon as something actually matters, well, are we sure this is really the appropriate place for this conversation? Yes, it is always an appropriate time and place to have discussions about protecting children and standing up for children and advocating for the justice of children who have been harmed by people they were meant to trust. Scott Pauley made a post saying, "You do not have to immediately comment on everything. Sometimes it is better to just pray and weep. Fear God, hate sin, love people." Do you think when he said love people, he's talking about love and support the victim here? Or do you think he's talking about loving and supporting Kenny Baldwin while Kenny Baldwin works through his sin? See, this is the problem. You cannot pray your away. You cannot pray someone else's away. The Holy Spirit, God, Jesus Christ himself is not going to come down here with a magical wand or send the Holy Spirit to poof, make you not a pedophile anymore just because you asked. You shouldn't have been in the first place if God is really all holy and all knowing. Here's the thing is, I personally, based off of my opinion, do not think that this is the first time Kenny Baldwin has done this. Kenny Baldwin has been preaching very similar messages historically, often what I feel like calling himself out. Low-key admitting his own sin, his own guilt, and trying to use that to encourage other people to do the same, because hey, we're all one in Christ, right? We all mess up. We're all sinners.
And let me tell you something. We're in a day and age of some trying teenagers. Because we got people in the building tonight. You know you shouldn't be listening to that music, listening anyway. You know you shouldn't be wearing them clothes, wearing them anyway. You know you shouldn't be thinking them thoughts, thinking them anyway. No, you shouldn't be reading them magazines, reading them anyway. You know you shouldn't be dating that girl, dating her anyway. No, you shouldn't be dating that guy, dating him anyway. You know you shouldn't be clicking on that clicking on it anyway. You know your Facebook page has an address in hell, but you keep it there anyway. Tweeting the wrong stuff, tweeting them anyway. Got the wrong friends, hanging out anyway. Going to the wrong places, going there anyway. You tonight, young person, when you got music you shouldn't have, when you got friends you shouldn't have. Let me say it to the adults. Come on now, let's not get quiet. Cigarettes you shouldn't have, alcohol you shouldn't have, bad music you shouldn't have, gambling you shouldn't have, discord you shouldn't have, grudges you shouldn't have, gossip you shouldn't have, jealousy. Be faithful, sir. You better be careful about 2 o'clock in the morning clicking on some site. Don't you walk away from your wife and your kids. They're begging you to come home. You better be careful, young person, about messing up your life in some illicit lifestyle and getting pregnant out of wedlock and chasing some deadbeat and messing up your future that God has planned for you for a little bit of fun. You can't just avoid it. You can't just make sure you delete it quick enough. You remove it fast enough. You hide it well enough. You can't just be concerned about who catches you down here. You got to be concerned about who sees you.
And what a lot of people fail to acknowledge and understand is that this behavior usually progresses. It starts with a thought. And you know what's crazy is Christians will also acknowledge this, is that it starts with a temptation. And if you don't nip that temptation in the bud, then that temptation festers and festers and grows until you do the temptation. Well, I mean, that's true in reality. So I guess the Bible gets a couple things right. That is true. This starts with a thought. That thought turns into seeking out an outlet for that thought. You know, bringing that thought to life in some way, whether it's an illustration, a personal little writing you make, or seeking content out on the internet or from other people, or even from children themselves. It progresses. And praying for them, loving on them is not going to stop it. These people, when they harm a child, need to be kept away from children as a whole. On the internet, I don't care if they don't get internet access anymore legally. I don't care. They do not deserve to have any chance around children at all, because they could have gotten help when they first started having those thoughts, but they don't. They don't seek professional treatment. They don't go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist or any mental health professional and say, I'm having these thoughts. I am a Christian. I am religious. I've been praying about this and it is not getting better. I need help. Like, this is scaring me. I don't want to have these thoughts. That's not what happened, huh? So no amount of prayer, love, or forgiveness is going to change who this man is. I'm honestly so sad to see this. This one's gonna sting for a while. My heart hurts seeing and hoping it's not true. However, I pray that God turns his heart back to Christ. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Hope all y'all want. It is allegedly true, and I say allegedly because I legally have to, and I don't understand why I legally have to when he himself admitted what he did. Hello. And I know people are going to tell me, well, this is the I know why technically. It just, little technicality, that really makes me mad. No amount of hope is going to change what happened. And why is it so hard for people to believe that these things happen? 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys is the approximate estimation of children who face any form of CSA. 1 in 9 girls and about 1 in 20 boys. That's a child in your church. At least one. That's at least one child in your church. And you want to walk around and act like this is an unbelievable thing. Hello, y'all hear this all the time in your sermons and stuff, that Kenny Baldwin's just a man, and you're shocked? And you're shocked, because I promise you, if this turned out to be, I don't know, maybe that quiet, weird guy who comes to church every single week but kind of keeps to himself and sits in the back that none of y'all want to go up and talk to and try to befriend, if it was him, well, that wouldn't be very surprising, would it? But because it's Kenny Baldwin, now you hope it's not true. It's just so shocking. And not a peep about support for the victim. As previously mentioned, Kenny Baldwin was on the board of directors for Veritas Baptist College, which Veritas Baptist College, at least to my knowledge, I remember when it was like first starting out, it's like a strictly online Christian college, Baptist college. I don't know if to this day they have physical buildings, but I do remember when it was first starting out, it's like an online program to be able to earn a biblically backed degree specifically for preaching, right? We want more preachers, evangelists, missionaries. Well, they have come out and released a statement. Veritas Baptist College learned of the serious allegations of immoral conduct leading to appropriate criminal charges against Kenneth Baldwin only through recent public reporting. Mr. Baldwin served as a member of our board of directors, but as a result of his alleged conduct, the board has taken decisive action to revoke his position. The conduct alleged in the charges is reprehensible, sinful, and in direct conflict with the biblical standards, moral character, and leadership qualifications that Veritas Baptist Baptist College upholds for all trustees, faculty, staff, and leaders. We are deeply grieved by these allegations and remain unequivocally committed to the protection of our students and the integrity of our institution. Publicly available information gives no indication that any Veritas student, employee, program, or activity was involved in any way. Upon learning of the allegations, the board immediately and without hesitation initiated the formal process necessary to remove Mr. Baldwin from any leadership position associated with the college, including membership on its board of directors. We are praying earnestly for the alleged victim, his healing, comfort, and well-being, as well as for all those affected by these events. Veritas Baptist College will fully cooperate with law enforcement in any lawful investigation to honor and protect the privacy of the student-aged victim, respect his judicial process, and the ongoing investigation. We are unable to offer further public comment. Not a bad statement, can't lie, but I do have some gripes because once again, why is the victim not the priority here? I get it, you're an institution and you need to protect yourself and you need to keep, people coming back and you want to let people know that we had nothing to do with this, but it sickens me that the victim gets just a small little blurb. We have to protect ourselves, but we'll work with law enforcement to help the victim too. But please come back to Veritas Baptist College. He's not here anymore. Please come back and also support the victim. And we're working with law enforcement, but please come back. That's how I read these things. Like, my goodness, who cares that you're an institution first off, just for a second? Can we stop caring that you're an institution? You got to protect your institution. There is a person behind that screen. You're a person. You are people. Can you not have humanity and just focus on the victim here and then make it clear that he is not there anymore and that you are prioritizing X, Y, and Z? Because I think by the end of reading it, people would see that you're prioritizing X, Y, and Z after they see that you just prioritize putting the victim first. And that sets an example. Me complaining about these things really does matter because, as we can see, this is not getting better. When things like this happen and come to light, the only normal things that we should expect to see online is absolute disgust and utmost support for the victim, the focus being on the victim. How can we as a community support this victim? But we're not. And we won't see that change until we can convince everybody that it is important to be that change, that your language does matter, that your focus on these topics do matter. Like, have any of these people even considered what this victim might be feeling right now, what they might be going through right now? Seeing post after post after post of people saying, I'm so shocked, not Kenny. It can't be Kenny, not my Kenny Baldwin. He was the best preacher ever. I hope this isn't true. Imagine it happened to you and that's what you have to see online. Devastation. When in reality, the world should be flocking around him, flocking around children like him and saying, what can we do to make you feel safe and protected again? But no, he's probably sitting here scrolling and seeing time and time and time again of people being hopeful and supportive of his alleged author's hopeful redemption and healing. Mind you, there is a huge possibility that he could be being victim blamed by people in his own church, by maybe friends that he had that were huge fans of Kenny Baldwin, maybe family members. It is our job and responsibility to support and believe children, to believe victims when they come to us and tell us something bad happened to them. It is so important to put that child first. Why are churches not offering support to child victims when it comes to these things, when it's 1 in 9 girls and about 1 in 20 boys? This is happening in every single church, and yet we have no programs for these children to heal. There is no church support to send these children out to therapies. How can we as a church support the financial burden on this family for this child to go through therapy and start this healing process? How can we as a church support this child in knowing that it wasn't your fault? How can we as a church change the way that we are preaching to take the blame off of children and instead put that blame on the adults where it belongs, so that children do not blame themselves when they fall for the devil's tricks because an adult took advantage of them? It is your responsibility because, believe it or not, preachers, believe it or not, people who enjoy that harsh preaching that really convicts straight to the heart, you are telling children that the bad things that happen to them are their fault. And believe it or not, that actually does not prevent children from getting harmed. It just makes children feel really guilty about the harm that was done to them, which makes them less likely to tell you when it happened. surprise, you shouldn't be victim blaming children for the sick actions of adults in your congregation. And yes, you should be calling out that preaching. You should be the change you want to see. You want to see children safe in your church and safe in general, then be the voice for them. Right now, Kenny Baldwin is a free man walking around on an $80,000 bail that came from people's tithe money. Yeah, $80,000 bail. He's out. He didn't have to sit in that jail. No, that church rescued him, scooped him right up. That church money got him right out of there. How much of that is going to the victim to help that victim heal? Oh, wait, no, I forgot. Kenny Baldwin's freedom is more important than the healing of a child, even though he himself allegedly admitted what he did. I'm sorry, if you're so convicted, if you're such a man of God, don't you think you should just sit in that jail and take your time? Even, yeah, once you get to your court date, that time is extended. I mean, isn't that what a holy man of God would do? If he has admitted his sin and is trying to right his wrongs and get proper forgiveness by God, I don't think a holy man of God who does this would bail himself out on $80,000. That's a little bit crazy to me. Hey, Kenny Baldwin, if you're watching this, as somebody who used to sit in your pews, that is crazy. What's wrong with you? Take yourself back in. That's where you deserve to be. If you genuinely admitted that to the police, if you did this and you yourself admitted that, take yourself back. You don't deserve to be out. Give them that money back. Actually, better yet, give that money to those children or that child that you allegedly harmed. The $80,000 just absolutely astonishes me because it is huge in the independent fundamental Baptist denomination. Again, like I can't speak for every denomination, okay? But the whole being humble, humility. You shouldn't have the most expensive this. You shouldn't have the most expensive that. You know, because our treasures aren't meant to be here on the earth. They're meant to be up there in heaven. $80,000 bond. You had that just sitting around. Like that was just easy cash for you to bail out. Mind you, most of your congregation probably doesn't have $1,000 in an emergency fund. Absolutely wild. Kenny Baldwin has court on August 18th at 10:15 a.m. at the York County Magisterial District Court in Pennsylvania. So if that's something that you want to be a witness to and see for yourself what he has to say and you're in Pennsylvania, be there at 10 a.m. to see it for yourself. I will definitely be doing my best to keep an eye on this and see any more details that come out, and I will let you guys know if anything really big or new or, you know, important enough to make a whole video on comes out from that trial. I really hope that this child gets the justice that they deserve. And I really hope that if there are other victims, that they feel confident enough to come forward. If you know any information on this case itself, please reach out. The phone number to contact is 717-428-1011. If you are a victim to this man, you deserve justice. And I hope that you get it. I hope that 15-year-old boy gets justice, and I am so incredibly sad and sorry that he has to go through this, that he had to be brave enough to say something. I know how scary that is. It's horrifying. And I hope that he gets the justice and the love and the support that he needs. I hope that he gets the therapy that he needs. And I hope that it is no financial burden on himself or his family, because it shouldn't be. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, I am interested to know your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. Were you in his pews listening to him preach at any point in time? Did you attend a youth camp or a youth conference where he was preaching? Just feel free to drop your thoughts and your feelings, experiences, if you want to, down below in the comments, because this is something that affects, unfortunately, way too many of us. And it is way past time for society to actually take this seriously and stop doubting children when they say these things happen, because the statistics do not lie. This happens way more than we even have statistics to prove. But that's really all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.